Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Podcast, where the DR stands for Driving Results. Our focus is weekly conversations around life and business relationships and the important leadership qualities for both. These concepts and qualities will help you drive positive results in both your business and personal lives. A weekly connection point to help business leaders develop individual contributors, managers, and executives on your teams. We also will tie in concepts around family focus and life lessons to help you drive success in your personal life. Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Show. Let's get after it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Dr. Leadership Podcast. Hope you're having an awesome day. Beautiful weekend here in the Midwest. Hope everyone's staying out of the sunshine, not getting burned, and hope you're not having any struggles this weekend around your homestead. Hey, wanted to just jump right in. Last week, the episode, we talked about how to maintain a brand and discussed a couple of just corporate endeavors that they got way out over their skis, talking about the Anheuser-Busch dilemma. I think now over $20 billion lost in value, and now Target is slipping faster and faster each day as well. I think we've all learned something here that you don't launch something that flies in the face of your major demographic. And the second thing is don't get involved in politics as a corporation. Just do what you do best. People want to drink a beer and not think about all these political items, and people just want to go shopping and not have stuff that they may not be against until you throw it in their face or you come after their children. And it's pretty evident that people in corporate America and these marketing departments need to understand that stay away from the kiddies and things will go a lot better for you. I said last week that we would jump into now how to create a brand after we discussed how not to destroy one that you've worked for decades on. And it can take seconds to blow it in life in a lot of things. And around a brand, it has been proven very, very deadly to put your nose into the wrong arena by these two major brands and multiple others. The Disney story's been tough too. Just let the kids go be kids. Let the truckers and the construction workers and the sports lovers just pop a top on a cold one and make funny commercials. Don't pick topics that just flail in the face of half your demographics, no matter right, wrong, or indifferent. You can believe what you believe, but also don't, as they used to say, don't urinate upstream of your water source, man. So today I want to talk about building your own brand and how you go about doing this thing. So, avoid virtue signaling in corporate branding. Same thing in a personal brand. Stay in your lane. But let's talk about a personal brand here for a second. Basically, it comes down to, what do you want to be known as? What is it that this is true of your work life, your personal life, your social life, your friends, your neighbors. Basically, deep down inside is what do you want to be known as? And I'm going to get into some steps here and describe how you kind of go through this thing using a couple of sources from outside that I thought were resonated very well on this topic on how you build this thing up. I know that in my life, I've tried to not create, but I've tried to show what I'm really all about in my business life. In my personal life, I don't always have this perfect. I overspeak. I push myself into situations I shouldn't. Haven't been true to what I really want to be known as at times in my significant relationships, and that's an ongoing learning endeavor. But let's talk about how you do build it here. How do you build a successful personal brand? So there's a great article. It's back from August of last year, but it's in Entrepreneur Magazine. And a guy named Scott Baradell wrote this thing, and it kind of gave me some insights and some topics in which to go in here. And everyone has a personal brand, whether you know it or not. So what you're known as, or what your street cred is, for lack of a better term, is out there. You can say, I'm not going to play in this game. Your neighbors have an opinion of you. Your coworkers have an opinion of you. Your customers and prospects have an opinion of you. Are those opinions what you want those opinions to be? Is what this is really all about. So everyone has a brand. It can be adjusted. Things change. Going to talk about that too. But not every, and let me take a step back. When you talk about a brand, sometimes you think the Nike swoosh. Sometimes you think of Just Do It from Nike. Sometimes you think of, these monster corporate brand initiatives, and it doesn't need to be that deep. Not saying everyone has to have a logo. You don't have to have fancy packaging or slogans. But when people interact with you, they do visualize something when they hear your name or see you coming. That's the brand we're kind of talking about here is what is that visualization? What is that thought that crosses their mind? I'm sure a lot of people when they see me come and go, oh, buddy, here he comes. Sometimes that's just the reality of me. I can be my best attribute can be my worst enemy, I suppose. So I'm speaking to myself. I've said this before in many of these endeavors that we go down, the roads we go down together on the DR Leadership Podcast here. Many times I'm speaking to myself. I don't have this all figured out. I may come across that I've got this all figured out. I can promise you, I make mistakes every day. I've made mistakes to the people that I love the most. I've made mistakes to the people that I just, in passing, I've made mistakes in my business career. I hope that I can move past those, be forgiven and forgotten, and get a second chance at those things. And many of them, my first impression to people in my business life wasn't my best foot forward, and I ended up being able to capture that opportunity down the road. You got to be self-perceptive here. So your brand is at work whenever you interact with someone. It can define your success. It can define your consumer reach. It can define how good of a neighbor you're going to be perceived as. It can be defined by your kids' friends, your kids' friends' parents. It can be defined by those you interact with at the grocery store. And some of those people you're never going to see again. And I promise you, don't go through life with the attitude, screw them. They don't mean anything to me. You don't burn bridges anywhere in life because someday you may need that road home. And what I mean by that is karma is a bitch. Stuff will come back on you if you don't concentrate on this stuff. If you actively work at your brand, it can do wonders for you. It can work for you. If you participate in molding it, it can work in your favor. Now, I'm going to talk about molding and words like this in a minute because I don't want people to think that that any of this is fake. That's not what I'm talking about here. Let's first start just what is a personal brand? It is your story. Now, lots of corporations and work locations are paying big money to consulting groups right now and are paying big money to executive coaching firms and things of that nature to have people tell them or help them develop, air quotes here, their story. Now, in your personal branding, you probably aren't going to put a lot of dollars out there to have somebody try to tell you what your story is. In a corporate world, it's kind of like the mission statement, the value statement all coming together. But what do people visualize when they see that corporate logo or they think of that company? That's why you need some outside help. How to tie it all together. Especially coming out of post-pandemic, a lot of things have changed for a lot of companies. Your personal brand communicates these things. It communicates your talents, your values, your capabilities, what you, air quotes, represent. So when you think about it like that, it starts to get it down into a more simplistic approach on how you develop this thing. It is your total of what you believe and stand for. So it can be a lot of things. I want to be known as honest. I want to be known as hardworking. I want to be known as smart. I want to be known as, very driven. I want to be known as direct, no nonsense. All of these things, I don't know if that's what it is for you or not. I want to be known as the best in my industry. I want to be known as the friendliest person on the planet. I want to be known as never having a bad day. Just examples here. All of them pretty good examples. Pick a few of those that are most important to you, and I think you have a good start here. How often do you think you are trying to make a good first impression in life? And this is a question I want you to ponder. Stop and ponder. Think about how many first impressions you're making throughout a day. I work for a very large company, 15,000 employees in the U.S., 75, 80,000 worldwide. I am interacting with people I don't know in my own company at times, a couple times a week. When I call on new prospects with my teams out in the field, Best place in the world for a leader to be. You want to be a good leader in sales? Get in the field. But I'm making first impressions often. How often are you getting in front of people? New connections. In work, in the neighborhood. Introduced myself to a new neighborhood building a house across the street from the other day. Tried to put my best foot forward. I was out mowing, shut the mower off, got off the mower, walked over and said, hey, just wanted to introduce myself. Keep an eye on the place. It looks great, you know. Praised him right away because it is going to be a beautiful home. You can tell already. Super nice guy. Super nice guy. Son just had surgery on a I think it was a knee. Soccer player. I'm like, oh man, knee injuries at 15. That's going to be a long road to hoe in his life. But be nice to people, right? What do you want to be known as? You are in control of this. We make choices and choices make us. So what do you want to be known as? If you're always short and grumpy and everything aggravates you, that's going to be a tough one to overcome. That's not really going to be a likable brand. If you're too pleasing and overbearing from that standpoint, that's probably not a good brand. There's balance in all of this, right? It's not going to help you, though, if you're grumpy and if you're, woe is me and victim attitude in life. I can promise you that. Victims do not become victors in anything in life. I've talked about that before. Get off the victimhood, grab a hold of something that you enjoy, and go after it to be the best you can be. That'll create a great brand. Victimhood is a crappy brand. I just refuse to be around people that are always, well, woe is me, or it would have been better if this, or it would have been better than that. That's a crappy brand, man. Don't do that. Now, don't think of personal brand as being shallow either. I don't want you to think this is self-serving. The outcome of it is it's going to benefit you if you've got a good brand, but you aren't doing it for the monetary output or the fame output here. You're doing it because you want to be known as something. That's evidently important to you in your life. It needs to be a good, genuine version of what you think is important to you and what you want to be. And I'm going to get into the 5 critical elements here in a second from the article. So you need to decide, since you are in control, of who you want to be. Take a deep breath and just think, man, what do I want to be? What do I want to be to my family? What do I want to be as a spouse? I haven't gotten that one right all the time. What do I want to be as a father, as a parent, as a brother? What do I want to be as a son, an uncle, a neighbor? What do I want to be? So take some time and reflect on this stuff. There's 5 critical elements of an effective brand, and the golden rule is authenticity. That's number 1. Oscar Wilde said it best, be yourself because everyone else is taken. Great joke, great statement, but you got to be able to be yourself. You can't fake it until you make it. Hypocrisy will catch you. So you got to lean in on this thing with sincerity. What is it that I want to be? What is it that I can be? Because you can't fake it. What's the real you deep down inside? If you're just a grumpy, easily aggravated person, it's going to be tough to have good, solid relationships with people long term. If you aren't willing to lean in and take things a little bit as others want them to happen sometimes, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. You aren't going to be likable. Your brand's not going to be a big seller. But you got to be authentic. If that's you, maybe some, I don't know, your own business selling stuff on the web's the right thing for you so you don't have to interact with people. But rule number 1, when building your brand, it's got to be authentic. What is the real you? The second one that Scott brings up in this article in Entrepreneur Magazine, again from August of 2022, great article on building your own brand, is it's got to be values-based. Now, these are your characteristics and traits, right? When you talk about your values, you want to enhance different ones at different times. Couple examples. If you're I do a lot of public speaking. So as a public speaker, I don't want to be up there and sound like the teacher from the Charlie Brown, stories. Wah, wah, wah. I want to be known as fun-loving. I want to be known as energetic. I want to be known as a little comedic, a little goofy. I want to be known as I'm enjoying what I'm doing at the time. A key thing for a brand or an interaction point when you're publicly speaking, especially to large audiences. I get to do that this week. I'm going down and hosting the IPMA conference. I get to give part of the keynote the general session keynote this year. I've done that the last several years. It's one of my favorite things every year to do. I meander around. I walk around. I don't stand behind the podium. I engage with everyone in the first 5 or 6 rows in some manner. Visually, eye contact, laugh, tell some jokes, self-deprecating humor. Remember that from several episodes ago. Humor is a great attribute, especially self-deprecating, the ability to pick on yourself. But a public speaker probably wants to be known as fun-loving. There are some business leaders that want to be known as the smartest person in the room. I think that's a tough one to get to. There's others that think ruthless is the right answer. Maybe. Not going to last a long time as a leader. You aren't going to get a lot of followership being ruthless, but maybe it's I want to be the most intelligent person in the room. Then you got influencers. They just want to be known as hip or trendy or look at me. Remember, it's all fake. It's all filters. That stuff's not real. So understand that. That's not really my deal. I've got a voice and a face for radio. I'm not going to be hip or trendy. The third one to give some consideration to is integrity. This isn't just about being successful with your brand. It's about sticking with the things that you think are important in your brand. So if it doesn't have staying power, if you can't make it in the marathon of life with these characteristics and traits you're trying to present yourself as, it's probably not a good trait or characteristic to push onto your brand. First of all, nothing should be pushed on your brand. That's a bad statement. It shouldn't be a part of what is your true, authentic self's brand. Nothing should be pulled or pushed here. It should be authentic. It should be something that isn't in your personal values. It should be an easy thing to keep integrity based around it. Because if not, you're trying to fake it till you make it. Sooner or later, faking it until you make it is going to rear its ugly head. It's like people that tell falsehoods in their business life. I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, I've done that. Sooner or later, the spin of lies, you can't tie them all back together. Somebody goes, no, wait a second. One other time, they said this. It can't be this and that. It'll catch you. So integrity-based, value-based, authentic-based. The other thing I think is really important with a brand, especially now this isn't about your personal brand, right? Because you don't compete against other neighbors. I like to be known as, the best yard in the neighborhood. I'm really proud about that. But I don't want to be better than my neighbors or known as better than my neighbors in any manner. I'm not special. I'm just one of the neighbors. But charisma is important in the business life that you lead when you're creating a brand. You need to stand out. In today's hyper-competitive world, doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you're in real estate. Doesn't matter if you're in insurance. Doesn't matter if you're in, technology and cybersecurity. Doesn't matter if you're in healthcare. Doesn't matter if you're a pharmacist. There's competition everywhere. Somebody can go somewhere and get the same thing or awful close to the same thing, the widget, from someone else. And there's always someone that's willing to sell it for less expensive, for cheaper. And remember, nobody understands the value of their product or service more than the one price in their own. That's what I always say when someone says, well, so-and-so is less expensive than you. They evidently understand their value very well. I'm more expensive because our value is higher. But charisma is really important. Stand out. What makes you unique? I try to be, something that I pride myself on is I try to be really well-rounded in things I know something about. I don't want to say I'm a jack of all trades and master of none. I think there are a few things that after 33 years, I've got pretty well tied in. But I like to have a little bit of knowledge about a lot of things. And the reason is it allows me to create a connection with anybody, anywhere about anything. I was at the golf tournament this weekend here in Des Moines, the Principal Charity Classic. And I'm following Freddie Couples around for a little while. That swing, still just incredible. Just effortless. Whack! 310. I mean, the guy doesn't look like he hit it 50 yards. And I am, Tazizi is another player that is playing with him. Tall, good-looking guy. And I see this lady as following, and they're in the same group. Freddie and Tazizi are in the same group. And Tazizi makes a bomb for birdie on the, what hole was that? On the on the first hole, makes a bomb. So I go down the second tee and watch Freddie hit a, 5-iron, 220 yards uphill for a birdie putt. Tazizi hits a nice one too. And I see this lady kind of walking along. So now we're in between third tee and fifth green, because you go, or fourth green, 3 goes all the way down, 4 comes all the way back. And I turn around and I go, you a Freddie fan? She goes, no, not, well, yeah. I go, oh, I just saw, I'm following Freddie around a little bit. She goes, well, no, I'm actually married to one of the guys in the group. And I said, oh, foot in my mouth. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I can't believe I just said that. Do you like Freddie? No, kind of like the other guy. So she's Mrs. Tazizi, Maybe it's Terezi. Sorry. And I go, oh, cool. He made a great putt. She goes, yeah, he did. And I said, are you enjoying, Des Moines? Having a good time? People being nice to you besides me putting my foot in my mouth? And she kind of chuckled, self-deprecating humor, broke the wall down because I had inadvertently built a small one up. And I said, where are you from? And she said, Minnesota. And for the next 3 minutes, waiting for them to finish up putting to come in and hitting the ball down the next tee, we talked about Excelsior, Minnesota, which I have been to, and talked about fishing and the great people of Minnesota. And it was just able to build a connection there that started off kind of, she could have gone, super, super nice. And as she turned to walk away, and it's not because I was successful at it, I'm not bringing it up for that way, but you always have to have that charisma and you got to be able to be well-rounded. She tapped me on the shoulder and she goes, it was really nice talking with you. And I says, hey, I'm going to watch your husband a little bit more closely now because I can say I know somebody in the family. And she chuckled again and she walked off. Just be well-rounded. I was able to talk about fishing. I was able to talk about Minnesota. I've been lucky. I've traveled a lot. I think when you've traveled a lot of places, if you see pictures in someone's office and it looks like, hey, is that Spain? Or hey, is that Florida? I love Florida. Tell me about it. Make it about them. That brand of being interested is better than the brand being interesting. And what that means is 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in proportion. Hear, be willing to listen to other people about their story. People love to talk about their own story. A good brand attribute is to be a great listener in any brand. In any brand. But charisma, right? You have to stand out. You have to be able to break down any type of interaction to an enjoyable space with that person. And the last one, trustworthiness. Always deliver, be consistent. You got to build that trust. Sometimes trust gets broken down, and I got to work on bringing it back. Building trust back can be a long road. So you need to be trustworthy. I need to be trustworthy in everything I do in my life, right? To your loved ones, to your friends, to your families. You got to be able to be counted on. And I think a lot of things all of us are pretty good at, and then there's the ones that are closest to us. Sometimes we just don't do that the best. We got to be loving to those that love us back. And in the business world, what I mean by this connection is if someone is grateful enough of you to give you the opportunity to be in business with them, you better continuously deliver. You don't get to just deliver and then move on down the road. I have seen it in my business life a lot of times. The seller, the individual contributor, the company gets very engaged and cares a lot about that customer right when they're winning the first one or right at the time of upgrade or renewal. And then they go off down the road and kind of forget about them. And then they come back. Let's say it's every 36 months something gets renewed. 32 months after they sold you the last one. Haven't seen Jimmy or Susie in almost 3 years, but here they come again. It's renewal time. It's good to see you. Hey, man, is that building trust? Do they think you really have their back the entire time? So be trustworthy, be consistent, be there for them. How do you go about building this brand now? So now you kind of know some of the things that are good attributes of it. How do you figure out what your brand is? The first thing is You got to figure out who you are. So this is all about introspection. This is studying that 6 inches between your own ears for a second. Self-reflection, introspection. What drives you? What are your struggles? So here, what do I love to do? What am I not good at? What drains you? Certain people just can't handle any type of stress. Some people can't handle any kind of rejection or any type of objections, right? Some people just aren't good at that. Oh my God, they hate me. Well, you got to be able to handle objections. But what drains you? What do people compliment you on? Do they always say, man, you have such a beautiful smile? If that's the case, use that sucker. You always dress so nice. Keep dressing nice. You really seem to have a lot of capabilities in this space. Stay relevant in your space. Once you know who you are, how can you move to who you want to be? Maybe when you self-reflect, you go, man, I'm an asshole. Man, I don't have this figured out very well yet. I'm not the most likable person. Remember, you're in control of this. How do you move to where you want to be? If it's a brand at work, you need to rule the industry you're in's knowledge. You better be smart about the industry you're in. Set big goals. Break it down into manageable steps, but get really, really good at what industry you're in. From a neighbor standpoint, it's really just be real neighborly. If your neighbor's out and working and you're both mowing, edge around the fire hydrant that's barely on their property. If you're edging your sidewalk, walk on up the sidewalk and edge his too, or hers too. Be neighborly. The other thing to do is find a niche or niche. Depends on where you're from. I used them both. Let's say it's niche for the rest of the day. Define a niche. You can't please everyone. You can't be the best at everything. Specialization is great in a brand. iPhone is known as a very specialized device. Apple is a technology brand. Microsoft, technology brand. Now they are expanding out all the time, but still technology is their specialization. Hoka, I wear Hoka shoes. They are known for great comfort, fighting plantar fasciitis, fighting tendonitis, things like that for shoes. Great for runners. They used to not be all that pretty. Now they've really transitioned that brand. Their specialization is running, walking, and hiking. And now they got their looks going good too, man. They got some new designers in there. It's killer. Find your niche. Be really good at certain things. Now, once you've figured out what you are, once you figure out what you want to be and how to step that way, once you find your niche, now optimize that social footprint out there. Where are your customers found? Where are the people that you can take that specialization and niche to? Where do you find them? That's where you go. Lean into that. Get engaged there. Associations, clubs, lunch groups, mentor programs. The other thing is when you win one, ask other people ask them to recommend other people that your specialization, your niche, your brand can help. Do you know anyone else that is struggling with this that you could refer me to? Use your social network. Network your hind tail, your hind your tail pipe, your hind end off. Lost my train of thought there. Network, network, network. You win one, you turn it into two. You win two, you turn it into four. Remember to stay true, stay trustworthy, use your integrity, stay engaged with the ones you've won, follow up, make sure that brand is that they're here for you when they're trying to win you, and they're here for you after they've won you. Stay true, right? You have to do this because the only way in which to get your brand to grab a hold is to be what you set yourself out to be. When you were developing this brand, once you say it's integrity, it's values, it's my niche, it's my specialization, it's my knowledge, it's my well-roundedness, you got to make sure that you take all that and turn it into awesome. And then remember, you're awesome. Keep that shit up. Talk next week.